I think I said 72 in the thing, but I actually went and looked back and I think it was actually well over 72. I think it was more like um 75 or 77 because some people had issues with it submitting and they emailed it to me, or some people had already submitted an application previously and they emailed me to say, hey, I want to apply again. Anyway, so there was a lot and a lot of insight came from it. But what I was really like interested in this time that I think is always kind of true, but I would say was very true this time is there were such clear themes. I always have themes that I take away and stuff, but I definitely think that this time in particular, there were so many similarities. And so I feel like that's a really helpful thing in terms of getting to share this with you guys, that there's really specific themes I noticed and things that stuck out. So I wanted to share that. Hey Tara, happy to have you, Lisa, Kate. Oh my gosh, you guys are making me so happy for being here. Thank you. Drive to Survive on Netflix, 5 seasons. Okay, well, hold on. Gotta write this down. Okay, on it. Okay. Thank you, Maggie. Okay, so the first thing I will say is obviously keep in mind that everything I'm about to share, like I feel like anytime I want to share data, I'm like, remember all the context of this data. But the context of this data is these are all people actively applying for coaching support. Meaning, like when I say, like, oh, a lot of people had this challenge. Well, it makes sense that if you have this challenge, you're applying for coaching support. So I'm not saying everyone in the entire industry has this per se, but I'm saying that these are a lot of the things that are making people apply for support, but or that they're going through that makes them think like support or specifically one-on-one support is a good fit for them. So just keep that in mind, right? Like, doesn't mean that every business owner you know is potentially challenged in these ways or something, but it does mean people that are actively looking for, wanting to spend money on support, wanting to apply for it as it relates to one-on-one too. We're in these places. So I feel like one of the things that I notice most that feels important to say is like almost every single person had some version of, wow, I'm having to like make some changes. Some of those were because they had just gone through a personal thing, and some of those were like, wow, the industry has really changed and I need to catch up. But there was such an element of like, wow, I need to make some changes. And again, of course, that makes sense that people are applying for coaching when it's time for them to make some changes. So like, we don't just make like all the meaning there. But at the same time, this was new business owners, this was seasoned business owners. I mean, this has been people that have had like, we had people apply that have had businesses for 11 plus years, right? So, and we've had people apply that had new businesses. And so I just wanted to share that because I feel like there was such a theme and element of like, wow, like change is afoot, like we need to adapt. Um, and I think that can be so frustrating. I would say that was so much more a theme this round than I've ever seen it. I mean, obviously, when I get applications, people will be like, oh, I went through something personal and I'm da da da, like that, I think is so normal in business. But um, I would say in terms of like the frequency of like it's time to make some changes, I'm like in the middle of a pivot or I need to think about a pivot, or I'm like doing things to actively switch up how I'm working or how I'm operating or what I'm selling. That was very high. I think this is for a few reasons. One, what I think people want has changed, which I'm going to get to because that definitely stuck out to me in this application process too. But just like everything that we've been talking about, like how our space operates, what used to work, what used to drive sales, when trust was higher, when like the economy was at a different place, et cetera, is different. And so if you're not changing with that difference, you're going to experience the negatives of that. And I think it's really positive that so many people are going, oh yeah, it's my job to change as a business owner. Like that was a huge takeaway for me too, of like, when you can say it's my job as a business owner to change and I'm going to seek out support for that and I'm going to apply and say, hey, I need help because it's time to make a change. Like those are the business owners that stay in business a long time, right? Like I was like, oh yes, like this is what I want, is the people that are like, I see that a shift has occurred. I'm here for that. I'm willing to change. I'm willing to pivot. Here's what I'm thinking about. Here's what I'm doing. Like that matters so much. Um, Christina said the online space is just so different even than 12 months ago. Totally. I feel like everyone is feeling that. Everyone is like, oh, oh, like, it's time. Lisa said this makes so much sense looking at the astrology for this year. Yeah, so many insane shifts and transits. I definitely feel like this big transformation energetically. Yeah, I felt that so much. Like, it's like, whoa, like something is afoot, right? Hey, Jess, good to see you. Maggie said, I see this with many of my colleagues too, both at multi six figures and seven, lots of reimagining and rethinking. Yep. Lisa said, I'm in the middle of such a change in my business and I'm so freaking excited about the future now. Yes. And I noticed that with people too. Like, I think there was obviously, as there will be for any of us, sort of like oh my gosh, like, whew, I thought I had it and now things are shifting. I got to figure that out. I mean, certainly there's sort of like a frustration point with that, but I actually didn't like get that big of a read on that in those applications. Like the read I got was like, hey, I see this is happening and I can see how it could be good for me and I can see how it could be exciting and I could see how I could lean into that. And either that just means like I've done a really good job filtering for people who take that mindset, which like, yay. Or a lot of people are really coming around to the fact that that's just what it is right now. I feel like when a lot of these changes first started happening, there was kind of so much frustration and almost like pushback of like, if I've been in business for this long, I shouldn't have to do that. And that wasn't the read that I was getting on these at all. It was more like, it's just time. It just has to happen. It has to look differently. Um, and then I also want to say, and I think this is like helpful to hear, there were new businesses, I mean, we'll talk about what that means in a second. There were new businesses getting amazing, amazing results. Like I can think of one person who started less than a year ago and has built to, gosh, what, like 30,000 followers on Instagram, 20K months, like really, really amazing, consistent results. And I think what's interesting about that is like, this person wasn't necessarily a person saying, oh my gosh, so much has to change for me, because they kind of came into the change, right? This was a person going, okay, I've grown a lot and now I need to kind of like get my bearing and scale to the next level and like all of this stuff. But it's like interesting to see how the problems are kind of different depending on when you started. If you're like me and you started 10 years ago, you're like, okay, whoa, time to change. If you started in 2020 to 2022, you're probably like, holy shit, I thought this was a little bit easier. If you started after that, like you might be a little bit more adapted to like what the landscape looks like right now. So that was really helpful to see too, is that, I think people so often are like, oh, I shouldn't, like, it's almost like the market is saturated. I shouldn't start now, or I shouldn't start something new or whatever. And that's like not what I saw at all. It's almost like you have an advantage either way. It's just, are you capitalizing on it? If you're starting, in the last year, you have an advantage of the fact that you kind of like came into the middle of all this and, you don't have all the baggage that so many of us have. And I think that really works for a lot of people. Equally, if you have, a decade of experience, of course, that benefits you greatly. I mean, I think it's just like, do you know what your kind of like win is and are you capitalizing on it? And so it was cool to see the both and of that, of like, it's not like these people are like, oh my God, I can't start a business, or like absolutely no one's buying, or this is impossible or whatever. It's more like, this is what I came into. And so it just is what it is. Right. Yeah. Christina said, so true. It's shifting, but not that big of a change. If you started in the beginning of 2024, love this perspective. Definitely an advantage. Yeah. Just said the baggage. I think there's a cream for that. Actually, sign me up. Get us an affiliate link. We will take the baggage cream. No, but really, I think it's, I feel like it's with anything. Like it depends. Like I think, when I started my business, I had such like this almost like beautiful naivete of like, oh, it's just going to be easy. It's just going to be great. And I think there's something like that really supports you on that. 10 years in, I have so much more resilience, so much more perspective, so much more experience. But I don't have a lot of that almost like total naive, like, oh my God, this is all fantastic element anymore. And they both just serve you in different ways, and I think it's helpful to say that. So I think that part was really cool, of being able to be like, yeah, like you can still start, you can still grow. But if you were growing in a specific way, 2020 to 2023 and early 4, shit's changed. It's time to change. So that part feels important. Another thing that Bring the Delulu back. Exactly. Another thing that relates to this is I really feel like goals have shifted for a lot of people. I feel like back in, again, I'm just like kind of using these as general terminology, so take it for what it's worth. But like back in 2020 to 2022, like I can't, I almost didn't get an application that wasn't like, I'm gonna hit 1 million plus, blah, 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 blah. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I just think it was very much kind of like the narrative at the time. This time, I think there was a lot more like, um, I wouldn't say everybody said it like this, but just to like make it clear, I want a lot more balance. I want it to feel really good and I want to make the money. I even some people were like, I would even be okay if I just continued to make multi six figures if I could restructure it in a way that really, really, really felt amazing to me. Right now, it's feeling pretty hard. And I thought that was really interesting. Of, I feel like the freedom desire has always been there in our industry, but it was so marketed as like money is the only thing that gives you freedom. And so it was kind of like this mentality of like, do whatever to make the money and then you'll figure it out. And I feel like there's, by the way, that was never my mentality. I feel like I've been pushing back against that for a long time, but I feel like, and again, this could be because this aligns to my messaging. And of course, these are the people I'm attracting, but in applications, I definitely saw much more of a lean towards like, I want success, but not success at all costs. That was kind of a theme. And I think it's really helpful to see how consumer like desire has changed in that way a bit. Like, yes, give me the success. Yes, I'll take the money. Yes, I want the freedom. And there is a price that I'm not willing to pay for that. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I want that. And there's some parameters I want that to fit in. I think a lot of our industry has really grown up. I'm certainly part of that. I mean, I've had a decade and I like should I get married? No. I got divorced. Then I got married again. Then I got pregnant. Then I had a son. Like so much has changed for me in like my capacity, what I'm willing to give, what makes sense for me, what I want, what I'm willing to do to get it. And I think that's true for like most people in our industry, like if they've been in it for any length of time. Like I think a lot of our industry has grown up. I've seen a lot of the people that like, came in the first like 5 years that I was doing this go on to have children, multiple children. I see this with my clients. Like when I started, so few of my clients had kids. Now I would say like the majority do. Um, and so I just feel like as our industry has kind of like grown up and evolved, like so have the desires. And I also think that's true as a whole. I think so many women got so burnt out on this sort of like, girl boss kind of, culture, so to speak. Very much was part of that. So like, I'm not saying that in a negative way necessarily, but I think we're kind of returning to this idea of like, yes, I want success. And like, that's not the end all be all. There's context, there's nuance, there's ways I want it, there's ways I don't. And honestly, everyone kind of had different versions of that. But that central theme of like, I want it and was really helpful. And to see how important the and part was to everyone, I think really mattered. And again, I'm someone who speaks to this a lot. So like take it for what it's worth. I'm sure there's a way in which I'm attracting that person. But I also feel like I've always spoke to this a lot. And I would still get like the endless applications of like, hey, here's my goal. I'll just do whatever you tell me and whatever it takes. And I do feel like that's changed quite a bit. I'm so curious if you guys like notice or feel the same, but I've definitely seen that. The other thing that I feel like has changed a lot in terms of what people wanted is I feel, how do I say? I feel like less information felt, or how do I want to say? I feel like a lot of times in the past, like it almost would be like, something I don't know and I want to know it. Right. And like, I think there's still an element of that and there's still some truth to that. But I feel like, what we've seen with AI is just how like information is not the commodity anymore. I really noticed that reflected in the applications too. Like it was less like, something I don't want to, or I don't know and I want to know it. And it was a lot more like, I just need to be supported. Like I just need someone to like do this alongside. I need someone to do this with me. I need someone to see things I can't see. I need, um, uh, like, like real support. You know what I mean? Like again, take it for what it's worth. I'm obviously somebody that markets to real support all the time. So again, it's like natural that I would attract that, but I definitely saw that shift in terms of like what I would typically hear versus what I'm hearing now. Thank you, Mary. Elisa said, I resonate with this so much. Money goals feel way less important, and the joy and purpose and freedom are what's driving me. Yes, I want success and I want peace too. I love that, Mary. I want to be truly happy as I build my business and not define my happiness by what some random person says it should be on social media. Hell yes. Megan says, oh yeah, information is not the commodity anymore. Exactly. Maggie said, yes, regarding supported. Like, I think like we can go source information anywhere very quickly, very easily. What we want is to feel like there is actual supports like in place to like scaffold that, you know? And I just heard that again and again with people of like, you know, I know a lot, but I really want to be supported, or like I know what I should be doing and I have context, but I just like need someone else to be in this with me and like, you know, care in a way that I care. That was another theme I saw of like, I want someone that cares. Like I'm not maybe not like at the same level I do, because like obviously no one's gonna be able to like you know, care as much about your business as you, but there was very much an element of like I want someone who cares, which I thought was really interesting because in some ways that's sort of like the AI gap in a sense of like, I mean, technically AI will make you feel like it cares, I suppose, but like it doesn't. We know that, right? Although, oh my God, I'm not even gonna go down that rabbit hole, but if you're a TikToker and you went down that rabbit hole of the woman saying her psychiatrist was inappropriate with her and ChatGPT told her like, oh my God. But like ultimately ChatGPT doesn't care. Okay. Um, and so when you think about that, like information is not the commodity, but like we don't like, and we can like have conversations with ChatGPT and we can get, I'm obviously AI in general, get good perspective, whatever, but that like true, like I'm in it, I care is such a thing. Yeah, Tara, wasn't it wild? Like, oh my goodness. That we know that, right? Nervous gland. I know I was thinking about that TikTok. I'm like, we do know that, but I don't know if everybody knows that. Definitely wanting to build a business where I can fulfill my calling without feeling like a content mill for social media. Yes, totally. Um, yeah, so I think like that gap of like, what does it mean to have someone else that gives a shit was so relevant. And to me, what I was like getting as I was reading that, I was like, oh, yeah, that's the gap. Like, they don't necessarily need the information and they don't even need like all of the perspective, but they need someone to actually give a shit with them. Like, yeah, of course, right? Um, Elisa said, you know what? I sometimes brainstorm through ideas with ChatGPT and I always ask me to coach, I always ask it to coach me lazy sites. That, oh my gosh, that like made my day. Thank you. Does it do a good job? Like, I feel like it, like, I'm sure because I have so much like content podcasts that are, tell me, I'm curious. But right, I think that's even helpful. Like, you could listen to all my podcasts. You could get ChatGPT to coach you lazy site style, and all of that is good. But that like gap of like real support, someone that gives a shit, someone that's in it with you, like that really is what people are craving to be filled right now, I think. So that was really cool and helpful to see and be like, oh yeah, like that's what we all need to work on filling. It seems like something you would say. That's so cool. And creepy in a sense, but like obviously that makes sense. I love it. Love that reframe because support and personal touch is so important in the age of information overload. Exactly. And that was another thing. So I thank you for leading me into that, Brittany. People are just overwhelmed AF. Like the level of overwhelm that I feel like we're experiencing, especially, I get curious about this sometimes. I get really curious of like, is this just because of like the age range and how I was talking about earlier, how so many of us have like grown up in this industry? Or is it truly that it is like that much more intense to just like be an adult and human right now? I think it's probably somewhere in between. But again, I would say like the majority of my clients do have children. So I'm sure that um, relates to it. I would say probably about a 70-30 split in terms of applications, in terms of like people with children or stepchildren versus people without. But like the theme was very much like mental load, overwhelm, like life is heavy right now. Just from like a logistical stance and like same with business, right? Like logistically, it all feels kind of heavy for people. And so that was something else I really noticed is like, and again, I think that's why they want that someone in it with them, because it's like someone holding some of this with me, someone bearing some of the brunt and burden of how mentally heavy and exhausting this all is to carry. Yeah, I just think that's huge. Like it's almost like you want to be like, okay, I'm holding this really heavy thing. Can you just like help me hold it a little bit? I really noticed that as a thing of just like how much we're in that overwhelm. And I think that's changed so much in the online space. I would not have said that in 2020. Again, I'm sure there are a lot of different reasons. Also, we didn't have shit to do in 2020, right? But we have to be so conscious of that, I think, and how we're designing programs and offers and all of this stuff. You have to really be thinking about like people are experiencing this, like whether we want to like try to do that mindset thing of like, okay, well, like get over it. It just is the way it is. Or, you know, all that bullshit. Like it's a load and like it's not if they wanted to, they would really anymore. It's like they want to, and their nervous system is so fucking taxed that if we don't find a way to make it somewhat easier for them and carry that burden a little or lighten their load a little or whatever, it is really going to be hard to continue to get clients if the idea of getting a client just means you go tell them to do a bunch more shit. So that part felt really, really important. Katie says feels like having a spot in the gym, like mentally you're more confident and you're still doing the lift. Yes. I'm not a big lifter girl, but I'm trying to be lately. And I was doing this thing and someone, the trainer was like, oh, like even just give yourself support. Like if you're doing it with this arm, just like give yourself a little spot. And I was like, oh my God, like what I could do when I just gave myself even just like a little bit of support on like a bicep curl. I was like, oh shit. And so I feel like that's exactly what you're saying, Katie. Like, it's like, could I have probably done that without that? Yeah, but like for some reason, like that mentally changed the game of it. Such a good analogy. Michelle said, I feel like AI is the new rumination tool, like binging podcasts. You learn all of these things, but you still got to take action or else it's just info. Totally. I also feel like, how do I want to say it? Like, obviously, this is a little bit different to the partnership model, but like, ChatGPT can tell you whatever it wants. Like, sometimes it's right, a lot of times it's right, but like obviously sometimes it cannot be. As evidenced by that, again, that TikTok thing I was saying about the psychiatrist, or like anything else, like there's like ChatGPT induced psychosis or whatever. Like, so I think the idea of having someone that like actually cares and is in it with you, and like has a vested interest in you like getting the outcome is so huge. And I think that not enough people are marketing to their vested interest in you getting the outcome. I feel like for so long in our industry, it was just kind of like, you know, whatever you paid me, good luck. And I think that has to shift for a lot of that trust building again, and for our industry really to survive, is there has to be like a vested interest in outcome again, in a way that AI, at least cannot yet replicate. I mean, and again, I don't know, like that, who knows where that's going? Who knows how far away that is? Michelle said, yeah, sometimes ChatGPT is also wrong. Exactly. Christina said, don't get me started on how wrong ChatGPT can be for social media. Yes, especially if you're actually targeting people with an intent to for some reason like that. Oh, okay, there we go. Right. Like, I think that's, I'll just tell you guys what the TikTok thing was because it feels a little bit relevant. But so basically this woman did this whole long TikTok series about how she was in love with her psychiatrist and he behaved inappropriately. I didn't listen to all of it, but I listened to enough of it to be like, I think he actually behaved with like an incredibly high amount of integrity. And her justification for why he was inappropriate was a conversation she was having with ChatGPT. And like, it gets really scary if you think about it like that, because from my perspective, I was like, this woman is having a severe mental health crisis. And I actually think her psychiatrist like might actually be in danger. Like this feels like something we shouldn't be watching. This feels really extreme. Like this does not feel okay. Um, and there's like ChatGPT going like, yeah, like it's so anyway, like that's how wrong it could be. Katie said, heavily agree. I was kind of flabbergasted when I saw your partnership model because I'd never seen a business coach operate in that way. Thank you. I'm curious if you notice more people want to take their business off social media into the real world. Oh, that's such a good conversation. Let's talk about that. Tara said I watched an entire recap. It was insane. This drama is consuming me. Him, boundaries, her, sexy, play, hard to get. I know. Part of me like wants to laugh, and part of me is also like she's having a real moment. Like, what is going on? I haven't heard about this. I haven't gone down the rabbit hole of yet. It's this woman on TikTok. Like, I feel like if you just type in psychiatrist, it's gonna come up. Trust me. I think she was in some sort of psychosis. Yeah, totally. So that's the thing, right? And now she's slamming this person on TikTok. I don't think his license would be at risk because, again, from like everything she's saying, he did nothing wrong. But I mean, like, it's kind of crazy to think about like the lengths this type of like wrong support can take you to. So I think like, yes, people want to use that as like a brainstorm partner or whatever, but they need something else that they can really trust. So in terms of Elisa's question and related to taking it offline, I wouldn't say so much that it was offline, but what I really noticed was very much a theme of like, I want to go deeper in terms of like networking and community. And like, it felt like there was less of this, like, I want to reach, 1 billion people and be like an internet superstar, and a little bit more of this, like, I want real community. I want to network. I want to like sit at tables with people. I want to like have a referral network. I want like this sort of more like relationship based marketing model is how I would maybe speak to it. Like, obviously we're building relationships on social, so I don't mean that, but I think people were craving like deeper, more higher touch point relationships. Like, in terms of that, I definitely noticed that as a theme where they were like, I want to start doing this one thing in person. I want to start hosting this. I want to kind of like, like put hands in my local community more or hands in a like broader community more. So I do feel like that was really real. I don't think there was a ton of like, I don't want to be online anymore, but I would also say I don't know that I would be the best coach for that. So I think that could be why too. Like there might be a whole group of people experiencing that, but they probably wouldn't come to me to solve that problem per se. So like, I think there's context there. Yes, real community and in real life opportunities. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people wanted to do more kind of like bring their communities together. Obviously that I'm doing that this year. I'm bringing all my clients together at my house. And so I feel like there was definitely some elements I was hearing of like, I want to bring more of my people together too. I feel like, again, we're all kind of craving that, like being in it together, kind of mentality. What else did I want to say? Hold on, let me look at my list here. Another thing that I would say, pardon me, that came up a lot was sort of this idea of it was working until it wasn't. Like, I think a lot of people have not yet figured out what happened, if that makes sense. Hey, Lacey. Yes, High School Musical vibes. Yes. Like I feel like there's such an element for a lot of people. And again, this is like early stage to, I've been in business for years and years. There was a real element for a lot of people, which I think makes sense why they're applying for one-on-one support, is it's almost like they haven't been able to diagnose what changed or what happened. And I think that makes us incredibly uncomfortable. So that was something I wanted to talk about today too. If you can be someone who's helping people diagnose what happened and get real perspective there and create some clarity and certainty from that, I think this is a real moment for you. Because for so many people, they're like, is it really just that the industry changed that much, but I don't totally get how it changed. So can I keep up with that? Is it just summer? Like, is summer just that slow? I've seen some stuff that summer's slow. Is it that my offer is totally wrong? Is it that like, it felt like there was a lot of like, it changed. I'm willing to pivot. I have some thoughts around pivoting, but like I have not fully and completely wrapped my head around what actually made things shift. And so it's making it a little hard to figure out where to go next. I think a lot of people are drawn to me for that reason, in the sense that I talk so much about data and I lean so hard into data. I think they're like, oh, I see you as someone that can help me make sense of what I can't seem to make sense of right now. Um, so that part I found really interesting and helpful, of like, yeah, people, I think there's a willingness to change. I think there's an awareness that change has happened. Like, I think a lot of those boxes are getting checked, and I still think a lot of people don't really get what's changed for them specifically. And so the idea of solving it, even if they have a willingness to solve it, feels difficult, if that makes sense, because it's almost like, okay, like I'm happy to, but like what do I do? Like, I don't want to just go throw spaghetti at a wall and like hope this one sticks, because I don't even really know what's wrong to begin with. Um, so that's part of it. I think it has made more confusing for a lot of people, because people were saying that, but then they're also like getting really good client retention, and a lot of their clients are staying with them for a long time. And so they're having a really hard time making sense of it all. They're like, well, it seems like my programs work. It seems like my people are really happy with me. And so like that part hasn't changed, but all of a sudden, like the growth and the leads have fallen off a cliff. Like, what has changed? Like, my program can't really be the problem, because it seems to be working and the people that are in it are really happy. So like, I don't really want to change that, but also I don't really know what to change. And so I think that dissonance is a little bit confusing for a lot of people, where they're like, it's not like my clients aren't happy. It's not like they're not having a good experience. And so how do I translate that into marketing? That was huge. And again, I feel like I'm a broken record saying this, but it feels important to say. I feel like I'm someone who speaks so much to like client experience, give your clients a good experience. So like, again, naturally would I attract people that were like, oh yeah, I really align to that? Sure. Um, but I do think that that's a big confusion for a lot of people, where it's like, it almost would be more clear if their clients were like, nope, I'm leaving. I want something totally different. And they were like, oh, I get what they want different. Let me do that. But the fact that they're like, well, they're not leaving, but no one new seems to be coming and wanting this. What is happening? And then I think they get really into like, well, how do I translate what I'm doing with clients onto social, or into an email, or into a sales page, or into marketing? And they maybe think they're doing it really well, so they don't see a problem there. You get what I mean? Like, it's sort of this whole rabbit hole of like, where is the problem? What has actually changed? Um, which we could obviously talk about a ton, but I think for the purposes of this conversation, the insight is people are not very problem aware right now. Is that how I would say it? I think they're aware there's a problem, but I think they are not totally aware at the specifics of what that problem is. So that's where it gets really difficult, if that makes sense. So it's not like they're not willing to do something, but it's not like they're like, oh, the problem is my copy, I have to go get that changed. Or the problem is my, like, I need, whatever, better hooks on my, on my reels. Like, they're not at that level of detail for a lot of people. So it's confusing. Does that make sense? Right? Like, because there's this huge willingness there, and they're aware that there's like a problem that has to be solved. They're not aware of what that problem actually is. Maggie said, yes, also same with my friends. Totally. Right. Like, I think, well, I'll say something in a second. I want to see. Oh yeah. I like how you said that, Jess. That's probably a better way to clarify it. Pain aware, but not problem aware. There's like, there is a pain. There is something going on here that's not right, but I don't know how to totally diagnose or fix it. I think what is hard about that is the hardest place. What's hard is that it's hard. That is the hardest place to be in business, at least that I know of, is when you're like, something's wrong, but I literally can't see what it is. I can't figure it out, and I can't diagnose it. It's almost like if you think about like your body, if you're like, I'll use myself. Like, when I was at that point where I was losing so much of my hair and feeling so tired, but I couldn't like pinpoint what was wrong. And my doctors were like, oh, well, your labs look normal. And I was like, but I know something is wrong. My hair is literally coming out in chunks. Like, something is wrong. And until I started working with Heather, I couldn't figure it out. And then when Heather was like, oh, well, you haven't gotten your minerals tested. It's probably this, and this. I was like, yeah, take my money. Like if it, like I'm happy to do something about this problem. I have a willingness, I have a desire. I'm acutely aware that something is wrong, but like I don't have enough like knowledge or context to figure out what that is. And so I think that's so important to see in our like space right now. If you're not connecting those dots, if you're not making that clear, it's not going to happen. Like they're not seeing you as the solution because they are not problem aware enough to know what they need yet. And so you have to do a little bit of that extra work to help them see why it might be you or why you might be the best fit for them. And by the way, like this is important to say, and I think Maggie's reflecting this as well. These are not brand new business owners who are just like, I have no idea. Like I'm totally new to all of this. This is so insane. Like I have no clue. Like like we all are at the beginning. These are people who have been in business 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and they're like, I have no idea. Right? That's important to say because if somebody that's been in business that long is like, well, I'm really struggling to diagnose a problem right now, and they're clearly a great business owner if they've been able to maintain, being in business for that long, imagine how everybody else feels, you know? Um, it's not just a problem for new business owners anymore. And so I think like whether you serve someone that's new or much further along or whatever, like there is really something. And by the way, this is not just a business. I think we feel like this overall, I think a lot. But yeah, it does not feel like problem awareness is clear enough that they're ready to make a jump or a big investment unless, and again, I think this is why I probably am seeing that a lot on the applications. Like I'm someone who's like, I will look at your data. I will help you figure out the problem. I will help you diagnose it. I will help you come up with a solution. Like, okay, great. That's why they're looking to hire me because they don't have the diagnosis. Um, Oh, yeah. Just like in medicine, the diagnosis is halfway there. Perfectly said. Really thoughtful, hardworking, experienced coaches. I'm seeing all the things you're saying. Exactly, Maggie. Same. Like these weren't people where I was like, oh, well, you're new. Like, of course you don't have the like experience yet to diagnose this. Like, I got you. I was like, oh yeah, you are brilliant. And I get why this is still hard. And so, um, I think this is built, unfortunately, from a lot of years of our space just acting like it should be so simple. You should never have to look at numbers. It should only go up. It should never go down. Like all of these kind of pervasive narratives that taught business owners to try to not learn business. It was almost like if you were trying, you were doing something wrong. If you were trying to figure things out, you were wrong, right? And I just think it's caught up with the whole industry because now people are like, I don't know what's wrong and I don't know how to solve it. And it's not really their fault. It's like this overarching dynamic that was like, you should never be looking at that. It should only be going up. That should not be your problem. And now they feel not only like they don't know how to diagnose this, but like some level of shame or guilt about that. And it's like such an industry wide thing. Um, Lacey said, I feel like that's the problem. Oh, I feel like that's probably true in any coaching relationship, not pain aware either, because there's just so much overwhelming stuff happening in the world. I think that's totally true. Katie, turns out vibes isn't a strategy. Such a fucking bummer. Like, I think about that all the time. Like, there was a time in the online space, I feel like, where vibes kind of were the strategy. Like, that didn't suck, but like, it's such like a moment in time when things are booming. It's not like a long-term thing. And I think that's what a lot of people are reconciling with right now. But like, that was a moment in time. That's not how it is forever. And now I really have to come to grips with that. I have to like step into that in a way that like I almost thought like I almost got convinced I wouldn't have to. Learning the hard way, 2020 coaching was a vibe. It was such a vibe, guys. Like the good old days. Um yeah, and I think what Lacey's saying is true. Like there's so much overwhelming stuff happening in the world right now. Like I don't even get me started on like what's happening today in DC. Like the insanity that we're all processing on a daily basis is so high, or we're doing so much work to dissociate from that it's taking a ton of our capacity anyway. That like trying to solve all these problems, especially when it's new for you, especially when you've kind of gone off the vibes, especially when you've been taught to feel like you're wrong if you have to try, or if you have to learn from things, or if you have to iterate, or if you have to test. Like, ultimately, what I believe is true is that business is an art, not a science. We want it to be a science so fucking bad. We want it to be like, if someone just told me how to get it perfect and how to get it right, it would be a science and I could make it perfect. Unfortunately, that's not true. Basically, all of business is an art. Yes, you can learn from it. Yes, you can test it, but even data is an art. Can you read it well enough? Can you make the correct meaning? Can you test a hypothesis? Like, yes, there's scientific basis in it, but it's ultimately an art, not a science. And we leaned so hard on this idea that it was like just art almost, if that makes sense, that we haven't incorporated any of the like strategy into that. But then even when we incorporate the strategy, we want it to be science. Do you get what I'm saying? And it's both. It's more an art, but you have to add some science into it. You have to test, you have to tweak, you have to iterate. And what we kind of got told is like, if you were doing it right, you don't have to do any of those things. If you were doing it right, you get it right from the beginning. If you were going off the right vibes, none of that would matter. That's what's not true, you know? And I just felt like that was coming up for so many people. And it's just like, it's so obvious for me to be like, it is not your fault. It is like a collective narrative that we're all trying to kind of unwind right now. And I think what's hard about that is like, especially if you got into business thinking that that's all it was going to take, it's so fucking annoying to be like, oh no, it takes a lot more than that. It like literally is going to piss you off. It's literally going to be this frustration point that you kind of have to work through to get to the other side where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm willing to do that. McKenna said, why do you think they used to be more problem aware? Just less noise of competing answers, saying what the problem is, trying to figure out what the right problem is. Why do I think people used to be more problem aware? Yeah, I think it's a lot of noise. I think the industry is super saturated with a ton of different competing perspectives, but I think more so it used to be simpler. I mean, I don't know how else to say that. Like you used to be able to get away with like I had some clients who would be like, I just never look at data. It's not a thing for me. I love that you do, but like that's not what I want to do in our work together. And I'd be like, cool, right on. And it would be fine. like it just would be fine. um Now I think like I would probably push back on that more. I'd be like, that's totally cool. Like we don't have to do anything you don't want to do, but I do actually think that like iterating this probably matters a ton. Like what can we do there? To to help you a little bit more there. Like I do think with how the industry has gone, how platforms have changed, how much saturation has occurred, et cetera, like you do have to be a little bit better at what you do and how you sell people into it than you did before. Like an example I think I've used on here a few times is like sitting on a call with a client and going slide by slide by slide by slide through a thing. I probably would have done way less of that in 2020 because it just wasn't as necessary then to get results. Like the boom was just so booming. And so yeah, like I think they're less problem aware because the problems are more nuanced and specific, I guess is how I would say it. Yeah, exactly. Just that I think possibly the problems were simpler too because there were so many beginners. Yeah. Christina said, agree with this. It's not simple or easy now. But I think this lies. Wait, oh my God, I can't read. But I think in this lies huge opportunity. I agree with you. Like when you're willing to like get in there and be like, yeah, it's not as simple as I just throw something up and people buy it, but I'm willing to go there. Like you can set yourself apart like that because so few people want to do that. Jess said it's like the difference between newbie gains at the gym and then lifting weights and gaining muscle for 10 years. Right. Like at a certain point of that, you have to iterate the specifics so much. I feel like I said this on the last live stream as an example, but I just think about this all the time. My ex-husband was an Ironman, so it's like a very, 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 very long race. And at the beginning, it was just like, can he just like, stay on the bike for that whole time? Or can he just like not pop a tire or whatever? At the end, it's like, does this gel on mile 11 make a difference than this like sport bean on mile 15? Like the longer you're in it, the more iteration actually does matter, especially when you're competing at higher and higher levels, right? And so I think that's a bit of what Jess is saying too. And I think what Christina is saying is like, there are some simple principles, but the idea that it doesn't take a decent amount of like strategy, what's it called? Oh my God. Apparently I can't read or think today, so thank you for being here. That it doesn't take a decent amount of strategy or specificity or a willingness to like lean in and make the thing you're doing a really good thing. It's just not true. Or I mean, it can be true, but you're just not going to get the level of results you want to get. I think that's the trade-off. Roll's eyes and triathlete husband. Oh my gosh, there's so much. I hear you. Like very commitment heavy sport as a partner. Elisa said totally. And then it's like menopause hits and what you used to do doesn't work anymore and you don't know what's up. Yes. Perfect example where you're like, all the things I used to do don't work anymore. Like, what does that mean? Like, how do I fix that? So anyway, I do think like if you've been in the States for a long time, you can really see that. Like this whole, like I feel like when I used to coach, in that boom, it like all we had to get people to do was show up. Like if you could get like you know what I mean? Like if you could get people to really just show up consistently, like you good. Like that was the work to a certain extent. Now it's like that's just the foundation. There's so much more beyond that. Like, yeah, you have to show up consistently, but like what's working, what's not? What are you learning? How do we make it better? How do we go deeper? What are the, rates on that? Is it working? Is it not working? How much are you spending on ads? Well, like all of that is so much more intense than it used to be. It doesn't mean it's bad. I actually totally agree with Christina. There's so much opportunity in it, but it's different. Lacey, when you watch Drive to Survive, you will see they win or lose by tenths of a second in so many business analogies. Yes, tenths of a second. Like, and one like probably like the smallest of small decisions or the smallest of like maneuvers. And I feel like a lot of us hate that idea, especially if we're kind of these like high achieving perfectionists. It can send us into this stress spiral. But I feel like that's sort of the work. Like I know it's the work I do with a lot of my clients of like, how do we go? Yeah, it really is important to iterate. And there is a lot of details. And it doesn't have to be this heavy, horrific thing. Like there is this middle ground where you're excited to iterate and it's interesting and there's some neutrality in it. And it's not a personal attack if like one conversion rate doesn't go how you want it to. And like when you can kind of live in that middle ground, it really does get easier. That's crazy. Do you feel your coaching has gone more leaning into mindset coaching and more into strategy with all of these changes? I mean, I'm a pretty hardcore believer in mindset's always the foundation. I would say for me personally, I feel like I've been working with a lot of my clients for a long time. I mean, I only take on, a client for the podcast and a one-on-one client, and then another client for the podcast. I think I've taken on 3 clients maybe this entire year. Or will take on like 3 clients this entire year. And so for me, a lot of my clients and I have done some really, really, really deep mindset work and excavating over the years. So I would say that some of our work now is a little bit more strategy focused only because they've really leaned in there and because we know their patterns quicker. And so it takes up like this much time versus this much time. But I don't think that was necessarily true overall. I think there's so much mindset work that goes into being able to do the strategy well. So I would say still, I think mindset is the foundation because if you don't have that foundation, this level of strategy and tweaking is going to fucking send you, right? It's not going to be neutral. It's going to feel really intense. It's going to feel like a personal attack. It's going to create all this meaning about you and your ability and whatever. And when you can separate out from that, it still makes the strategy quicker and easier. But like, I think it's a little bit more dependent on like how long I've been working with someone and like what that balance looks like. I don't know if that makes sense, but I still think mindset is the thing, but I just think that it's like the foundation and then there's more past it. That's also the difference between Lacey and AI because you don't have a limit on your memory and you can access a combo you had with your client 2.5 years ago, knowing patterns. Yeah, totally. I think that's true. Okay, I think that was it. So like overall things have changed. People are hearing that change. I think their desires have changed. I think there is still a massive willingness there, but I think we have to make it feel less overwhelming. I feel like we have to close that problem awareness gap. And I feel like we have to be willing to really be like a true support instead of just a receptacle of knowledge. And I think if we do those things, like our industry continues to evolve. So I hope that helps. How do you advise one to navigate these in-depth understanding of her business needs, specific apps in the current times of coaching? It's so crazy, particularly for those who can't get the kind of personalized coaching you provide. I mean, the short version I would say of that, Mary, is your business is always telling you this stuff if you read it. Like, meaning, like, do you look at your data? Do you look at literally everything? Your email open rates, your social media, like your words, engagement, etc. Like your business will tell you a lot of this if you pay attention to it. So that's not necessarily like that's just the work I'm doing with a lot of clients. I'm helping them go, oh, this is what your business is telling you. But like that doesn't mean you can't figure out what your business is telling you too. And I feel like that's where people go wrong in a lot of these times is they go, okay, so let me listen to everyone else instead of like, well, let me listen to what my business is saying. That's not the whole thing. Maybe we can do a whole another live stream on that, but that would be like the short and sweet version of that. Okay, but if you guys have other questions on that, let me know. I hope this was helpful. It was very, very, very helpful for me to go through all of them. I thought it was so informative. Um, yeah, just so grateful for that knowledge and insight and to see such clear threads. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Elisa. Thank you, McKenna. All right, I hope you all have a beautiful week and I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.